The views and opinions of this broadcast do not reflect the views and opinions of Armed Media, New Productions, and its affiliates. Enjoy the show.
Hey guys, thanks for tuning in to Two Beards Talking. It's Monday night right here on Armed Radio. I'm Daniel Sanders, and joining me, as always, is my co-host DonnieJ. Donnie, how you doing this evening?
Doing great, loving the rain, loving the cool weather, and ready to do some serious talking tonight.
Excellent. Yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to tonight's show. Before we get into that, though, as we always do, we're always going to give a big shout out to the troops out there. You guys are doing a great job. Keep up the good work. Come home safe. Everybody's rooting for you back home. Now, I'm excited. I know you're excited, Donnie. I'm excited too.
I am too. I'm even going to say War Eagle. So there we go. I said it.
Excellent.
I can't hear you.
And this gentleman, we have Tommy Tuberville joining us on the show this evening. Former head coach at Auburn University, Texas Tech University, Mississippi, and just excellent all-around football coach. He is now running for U.S. Senate. We have Coach Tuberville on the phone with us. Coach, how are you doing this evening?
I'm doing great, guys. Just driving a little bit in the rain right now. It's beautiful. Our farmers here in the state of Alabama need rain, and it's been a blessing all day to drive right around in it, because in August we very seldom have much rain.
Absolutely, yes. Anybody who's from Alabama knows August is a very dry month. So yeah, this wet spell is definitely needed for sure. Absolutely. So
the heat wave the past week was like at certain points it was 105, 110 degree heat index, and it was brutal. So the rain is welcome.
Yes. Absolutely, yes. Of course, I'm not home in Alabama right now. I'm actually up in Kentucky right now working. So we've got a lot of rain and a lot of heat and humidity up here in Kentucky as well too. So but that's neither here nor there. We're going to roll right into it. So before we get into the serious questions, I want to take the opportunity to have a little bit of fun here, because Coach Tuberville, when I first started following Auburn Tigers football, you were the head coach. You were head coach at Auburn from 1999 until 2008. And those are some of the best years of Auburn football that I remember. That was certainly, I think, the longest streak against Alabama that Auburn has had, if I'm not mistaken. Is that correct, as far as wins go?
Yeah, we had a fun time back. We had a lot of stability in Alabama. Went through quite a few head coaches that time. It's all in any business. It's about stability and keeping the same people in the same positions year in and year out to make progress. And at that time, at Auburn, we, as you said, I went there in '99, and we got rolling pretty good, and we were hard to stop there for a while. So it was a lot of fun. That's game of football is of course, in this state in the South, it's king. And I'm excited about it, because the first game was last week with Miami and Florida, and now we start the big week coming up, week number 1 of all the regular season games. Should be a lot of fun. I'm looking forward to it.
Absolutely, yes. So I'm sitting here looking at your at your history as a football coach. You started out in 1976. You graduated from Southern Arkansas University. And then you became an assistant coach at Hermitage High School in Arkansas. And then in 1980, you moved up to the college level at Arkansas State, where you were defensive back, nose guard, and linebacker coach. Is that correct?
That's exactly right. Moved up there and started out as a graduate assistant, became a full-time coach. that being for people that don't understand, it means you start getting paid after a couple of years. And it was a lot of fun. Had a lot of fun. And I tell you, over my career of 40 years, I was just very fortunate to work with a lot of great coaches, people like Jimmy Johnson and Dennis Erickson, R.C. Slocum. And when you grow up in any kind of business, you want to be around some of the best. And obviously the assistants and the coaches I had a chance to learn from. And then players, man. I was around a lot of great players also.
Right. And I'm glad you brought that up, because this is a question that I've been dying to ask you since we set this up. I know generally a coach would probably never admit this, especially while he's coaching a team, but I know coaches tend to have, just like a quarterback has his favorite wide receiver and on and so forth. Coaches I won't say coaches tend to, but I'll just ask you directly. During your coaching career, who would you say was your favorite pairing that you saw on the field player wise?
Oh my goodness. I was around some good ones, and as an assistant and as a head coach, for 10 years, I was at University of Miami back in Jimmy Johnson and Dennis Erickson days. And we won 4 national championships, and man, we had 2 Heisman Trophy winners and Lombardi winners, and some of the better players. I was on the coaching staff with Michael Irving back in years ago, who was maybe one of the greatest receivers of all time. And then, of course, I coached Ray Lewis there, Warren Sapp, who maybe be the best defensive lineman to ever play pro college football. Ray Lewis being a linebacker, he was a 190-pound running back. I recruited him out of Kathleen, Florida. And, he just developed himself into a football player, and what a great player he was. So, I'm fortunate around a lot of good players, a lot of players that overachieved. And, that people don't realize that a lot of these players come in at these lower levels in terms of star ratings, but make themselves into great football players. And
Coach, I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
I have a question about Michael Irvin. You said you coached him while you were at Miami. You were assistant head coach at Miami, and you coached Michael Irvin. He's known as being a bit of a bad boy on the field, off the field, not so much. Well, a little bit, but on the field, as far as a player, was he difficult to coach, or was he real easy to he did everything that you said and just got right to the task?
That's a good question. I get that question a lot about the Miami days, and Coach, those guys looked like they were out of control and hard to coach. And I tell everybody this: listen, this was probably the easiest job I ever had in coaching, because these guys they thought they were born to play football. And there was nothing that they wouldn't do to make themselves better in terms of practice. My goodness, they'd be the first ones out there and the last ones to leave. Their work ethic was absolutely amazing, and that's what makes great players. Now, you can have a lot of talent, but if you don't put that talent to work, then you're not going to make it. And I've seen a lot of guys that had great talent that ended up never hardly playing much because they thought they were already to the promised land, and they didn't bring their work ethic with them. So that's one thing that's missing in this country now is work ethic across the board with a lot of our young people. Now, we got to look out.
Absolutely.
Kids, a lot of kids that work very hard, but there's work ethic and respect and all that. We've left it at the trough, so to speak, in a lot of areas, and we've got to get it back for this country.
Absolutely, I agree with that sentiment 100%. Donnie, I know I know you're dying to ask this question, so I'll go ahead and let you get this question out of the way. So go right ahead.
Okay, let's go back to I believe it's 2004. Okay, your team was 13-0. Is that right? 13-0. Auburn was 13-0, and I know it sticks under your craw, Coach. You got snubbed when it came to going to the national championship. Now, the rumor was, and I've read that you were in the press box the night of the Orange Bowl, pretty much. And here's my question: It's about when your political career began. Is it safe to say that your political career began that night when you were lobbying the press box and telling people that, hey, we need a share of this national championship. We need to be in the championship game because we're 13-0. We're undefeated. And, here's a one-loss team that's going to go to the championship. And the word is that you were up there, working the press box, talking to the people who had the vote, the AP vote, and trying to lobby for Auburn to get that spot. Is that where your political career began? At that point, did you go, I'm pretty good at this. Maybe I ought to have a career in politics?
Well, what actually happened is, we didn't make the championship game. There was only two back then. We played in the Sugar Bowl. We played in the Sugar Bowl versus Virginia Tech the night before. We won that game, made us 13-0, and then I got on a private plane the next morning, flew to Miami at the Orange Bowl where Oklahoma and USC were playing for the national championship. But I did go up in the press box and started politicking for, hey, if this thing's close, we need to be, we need to be considered, at least one of the national champion teams. We couldn't do any more than what we did.
Well, yeah. And a lot I've read some accounts and a lot of people said, hey, that's probably where his political career began. But in all honesty, this goes on in every sport, football, basketball, baseball, on the college level. This kind of goes in, there's a lot of politics involved in college sports. True?
Oh, there's no doubt. It's just a little bit different type of politics. And it's about a game. And you get involved in it to some degree, but, what I'm doing now, running for U.S. Senate, which is maybe one of the most important jobs in the country, as I tell people, why should I vote for you? I say, hey, this is not a game. I mean, this is real life. This is for real here, and this is for our country and the future of our country. So, there's a little similarity, but at the end of the day, being a U.S. Senator is a very, very important position.
Absolutely. So we're
absolutely, yep.
We're and we're going to roll right into that because we've got a lot of questions to ask you about that, and I know you're on a time constraint, so we're going to try and knock this out as quick as possible. So I'd heard some chatter last year where you had talked about considering throwing your hat into the political arena, but in April of 2019, you actually announced your bid to run for the U.S. Senate against Doug Jones there in Alabama. And I know you and I discussed it in person during the meet and greet that we had, and I didn't want to take away from the people that were there to meet you and everything. So this is what this is about. I want you to have the opportunity to get your word out to our listeners out there, and the questions that we have concern some of the things that were on your campaign card that you gave me. And the first thing I want to ask you about is red flag laws and your stance on, as far as stricter gun control, stronger background checks. What is your stance, and what would you do to either be in favor or against of? And if you're against, make sure, I'm trying. I can't think of the word right off. Donnie, help me out here. I'm trying to think of the word here.
Well, the big thing you're trying to ask me is about the Second Amendment, and
exactly.
Yeah. The one thing I want to say about this is being a candidate and hopefully a future U.S. Senator from the state of Alabama, which now there's only 100, and so it's very important that people understand when they vote for senators is. I mean, there's a good chance that whoever you vote in is going to control a lot of things that go on in the future for this country.
Absolutely.
And you got to look at everything and balance it up. Let me tell you something. I've owned guns all my life. I've been around people with guns all my life. I don't know how many I own as we speak, but I'll own them as long as I'm on this earth. Now, we do have problems with people getting shot. We've always had that problem. We have people that shot every day, run over by cars every day, bombs blown up every day. And so the one thing I'd like to say about this, and there's always pressure put on by the left, I call them the socialist left now because they're really not Democrats anymore. They're socialists, is that guns don't kill people, people do. And you can bring up the red flag laws, the background checks. You know, every time I buy a gun, they check my background out.
Right.
And, but again, we don't need to go down any path to make any new rule, because it's not the guns that kill people. It's people behind the guns.
Right.
And
wait, let me back up. Your coach, Tommy Tuberville, former head coach of Auburn, and when you go in to buy a gun, after they ask you for your autograph or an autograph picture, they actually run a check on you?
Sure they do. They take your driver's license and they run it and make sure that you're not a felon or whatever. You know, I heard a guy say the other day on another radio show, driving down the road. I thought he had a great answer. He said, "Okay, you know, I'm a gun owner. I'm for the Second Amendment. I think we all should own guns, but now all of a sudden we want these background checks." Let me tell you something. If we're going to do background checks and you do a thorough background check, then that means I get to carry my gun anywhere I want, on an airplane, in a bank, in a police department, in a courtroom. Because if you're doing a background check that is that thorough, that means you know exactly what I'm going to do with that gun. And there ain't no way you can do a background check that's going to make any difference. You know, a crazy is a crazy at the end of the day. And, you know, the thing about it is what's happened to us is our politicians, these career politicians, that all they do is make votes to get reelected. They kick the can down the road, and they did away with our mental health system about 25, 30 years ago.
Thank you.
We don't have any way to educate and rehabilitate our mentally ill. And so the only thing that we have now for our mentally ill is either put them in jail or put them on the streets. And so now all of a sudden we're blaming a gun instead of blaming the politicians. This is the politicians' fault. This ain't bottom line, at the end of the day, we have no plan. The richest, smartest, best country ever on the face of this earth, and we don't have one plan for mental health. It is an absolute shame, and people should be locked up for this, I'm telling you.
Coach, I want to jump in on here real quick. Like, I couldn't agree with you more. I was a law student in Michigan back in 1998 when a governor named John Engler basically decided to open up the doors to the mental health facilities and said, hey, we need to make cuts. And the cuts were made in mental health. We can't afford to keep these people locked up. Okay, let's examine them. Okay, he's just marginally crazy. We're going to let him go. He kept most of the really dangerous ones that had serious mental problems locked up, a lot of them, but he let a lot of the other ones go, and then those started committing crimes. And it was part and parcel simply because they made a budget cut and they chose the wrong place to cut the budget, and mental health is not where a budget needs to be cut.
Well, exactly. And again, it all goes back to money. But we don't have any problem letting 900 to 1 million immigrants a year come into this country. Number one, we don't know who they are. Number two, they're not educated. We can't take care of them. They can't take care of themselves. Number three, we don't know what they're bringing with them. Number four, we can't afford them. We can't afford these people. But the socialist left are letting these people come into this country, not because they love them, because they love their vote. And that's all they're trying to do, is take this country over, turn it into a communist socialist country, and we're not going to allow that. And that's the reason I'm running for this job of U.S. Senator of the state of Alabama. Enough is enough. People need to go up there and don't worry about getting reelected and vote to get this country back on track instead of giving it away to people that don't need to be here.
I love that.
Couldn't agree more.
I love that answer. Now, this next question that I have for you, this applies a whole lot to Donnie and I, as well as our listeners out there. You talked on your campaign card about ensuring that veterans receive the health care and benefits that they need. Tell us what steps you would take to improve health care for veterans and ensuring they get the benefits and the help that they need.
Well, first of all, I grew up a military brat. My dad, at age 17, was in the Army. He landed at Normandy in a tank, drove all the way across Europe at age 18. He got 5 Bronze Stars and a Purple Heart.
Wow.
He got out illegals 100% health-wise. We pay their food, we pay their clothing, we educate them, but we bring these people back here that has laid their life on the line for this country, and we come back over here, and we do not allow them the benefit of 100% health care, great health care, anywhere they want it. The heck with the VA. They ought to be able to go to any hospital in this country, walk in and show them a card, I'm a vet, and you get everything paid for. This country is so backwards. And why would you want to be in the military if you're treated like that? I've got buddies all over the country.
Exactly.
Say, Coach, I can't get an appointment. It takes me 6 months to get an appointment at a veterans hospital. Now, a lot of those veteran hospital people, they work hard. They're understaffed. They're underpaid. They're run like a socialist healthcare system. That's all it is, because this government can't do anything right. They've ruined our post office. They've ruined everything that they touch, our healthcare system. Let's give them a voucher and let them be treated. We've got 22 vets a day committing suicide because our politicians ain't got a dang nerve in their body to say, let's pay for everything that they need. They deserve it. But no, we're going to pay these people in Congress and all these people greatest health care in the world. And they ain't done one thing other than just try to get reelected and say that I'm a congressman or a senator. They ought to be ashamed of themselves. And I'm ashamed that I live in a country like this that's allowing this to happen. It's ridiculous.
Now,
couldn't agree more. Excellent.
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought that up. Now, I have a question, and I don't want you to take offense to me asking this question, but I've said for the longest time, just chatting with people, I feel that members of Congress, I feel that they should not be receiving congressional pay or any kind of government benefits or anything like that unless government is in session, unless Congress is in session, unless they are actually working to benefit this country, doing their job in D.C. If they're back home, wherever they are, I don't feel really that they should be drawing any kind of government paycheck unless they are working towards bettering the government. So I also am for the idea of term limits for Congress members. How would you feel if they established term limits for Congress members and limited pay unless government is actually in session?
Well, first of all, we should have term limits, and I think we got enough votes, but the leadership, people that are in the leadership in Congress and Senate, they've been there forever, and they're not going to bring it up for a vote, so you can forget that. Our founding fathers didn't put in the Constitution, when they drew up the Constitution, that there were term limits, and they did that because they never dreamed anybody would want to do this for a living. They figured,
absolutely,
hey, go up there and represent your state, or your district or whatever, go back home and get your job and go back to work, make a living, but do a little public service, donate something to the, to the country. Mm-hmm. But we got these people go up there and let me tell you something. Joe Biden, Maxine Waters, Chuck Schumer, Nancy Pelosi, put all them together, they got 150 years. 150 years in Washington, D.C. Are you kidding me? They hadn't done one thing, but they're all living in multi-million-dollar homes on a $100,000 salary. I wonder how that happens. Has anybody ever opened their eyes to that? It's unbelievable.
Coach, you made a valid point about the founding fathers, and I've studied political science, and what a lot of people don't realize, and I'm sure you do because you just mentioned the founding fathers, is that they were supposed to be citizen legislators. They weren't supposed to be there for the rest of their life. They would go, like you said, do their job. But here's the key. They had a vested interest in making good laws, which I think we've got a problem with that. I think we've got a lot of politicians, a lot of congressmen, senators that make laws just so that they can say, I'm doing my job. And they don't think the laws through, because the best reason for a citizen legislator to go to Congress, to go to the Senate and make good laws was that one day they would have to give up their seat, return home, and live under the law that they made. What we've got are people up there making laws and never getting out of office, and they don't have to live under the laws they created. There's loophole after loophole after loophole for Congressman so-and-so or Senator so-and-so, and so they can make bad law and not have to be affected by it. How do you respond to that?
Well, exactly. You're exactly right. And, you know, the one thing I'd love to do is just wave a magic wand. And when they start back in session, whatever it is in January, you've got 2 months to get a budget done, passed, gone through the House and the Senate, and signed by the president. You don't get paid one dime until that's done. You know, we hadn't had a budget in years. Of course, they don't go by it anyway, but we should have
continuing resolution.
Yeah. Budget,
Yeah.
passed, signed, and do not go over that budget. We're not sending it up there. Just, you know, they said, well, you know, we need to raise taxes. It don't make any difference how much they tax us. They're going to spend more than we're going to send them anyway. I mean, it's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous how we've turned this country into just kind of a just spin at will. Not just the Democrats now, Republicans too. And it's gotten us in trouble. We're a dead broke country. We've maxed our credit cards out. But what did we do about a month ago? We all got together, and the only thing the Democrats and Republicans were able to do is we need another $1 trillion. We don't have enough money left, you know, to keep running the government. And I tell you what, if you run any business like this, it would be broke in 5 minutes. And again, this is a reason we got to quit sending these career politicians to Washington, D.C. I'm a former I'm an educator, but I'm going to tell you something. I've been over $100 million budget at 150 employees. I've traveled the United States, been in businesses, homes, schools. I've seen how people are hurting and how people are making a living. We need to start sending people up there that actually have had jobs instead of people that's made a career out of being in politics.
Coach, I think one of the things that would help, and it's been bandied about for many, many years, and I don't know how you feel about it, something called a line item veto. What you have are people who come up with these bills and say on its face it's a bill to create a park or a bill to create better health care, and everybody likes it. But then Senator so-and-so wants to stick some pork on here, and another senator wants to put this on here. And the next thing you know, you've got so many writers on this bill that to get it passed, to get everybody's vote to pass it, you've got so much pork in there. That's where the problems come in. The original idea of the bill was a great idea until everybody put their little 2 cents worth in and got their bit of pork in, and it went from costing maybe $70 million to all of a sudden we're at $700 million because there's so much pork. And the president can't go, nope, I'm marking this out, marking this out, marking this out, marking this out. How do you feel about that? Do you think a president should have a line item veto?
Sure, I do. I don't, have a bill and pass it, on what it is, not everything that's around it. Everybody just keeps adding these earmarks, and earmarks they did away with those, but it's just a process of how we do things. They think that they're tricking the American people. They've tricked us, all right. They've tricked us right into almost being a socialist country. And, I'm telling you, it's like a train coming through a tunnel. It's going 100 miles an hour. This last president we had, the last administration, you think they can't find any money. Immigration is breaking us. They won't give, President Trump, who has actually saved this country now. He has saved this country, from being a communist socialist country just the last 2.5 years, but they won't give him, 10 or $15 billion to build a wall to not spend $1 trillion on all these people coming across the border. But the last president got $150 billion, took over to Iran and said, here, spend this and, so many missiles you can make, so many people you can kill with them. It's absolutely ridiculous. They must think we're crazy, in this country. But I tell you, people are starting to wake up, open their eyes and looking what's going on, because they're starting to get scared. I've been doing a listening tour now for about 4 months. And a lot of people are waking up and going, you know what, we better wake up or we're going to lose our country. And, I've been very excited about people starting to notice and listening. And, again, I'm speaking everywhere I go, just like I'm speaking tonight. And if we don't do something, we're going to be in serious. We've got to give President Trump some help, and he doesn't have much help up in Washington.
Absolutely. Yes. Donnie, I know you had a couple of questions for Coach about all of this. Have you got your questions there in front of you?
Yeah, my question. One of them involves the recent tariff issue. Now, China has imposed tariffs on us in response to the tariffs that the president has imposed upon them. And there are a lot of people that say he needs to go back to the drawing board, or that I've read different reports and different theories that because there's an election coming up, at some point the president's going to go and say, hey, let's work out a deal, and the tariffs are going to drop and things are going to go back to normal. And a lot of people, conservatives, are saying, don't do that. Keep these tariffs in place. Make the Chinese hurt like they've been hurting us for years. How do you feel about that? Do you think the president's, do you think that his tariffs are working? Do you think that they should stay in place? Do you think at some point we've got to ease up and come to the table and come to a compromise? Or do we just keep hammering it home?
I think that's all going to work out, the tariffs. I'm free trade. You know, I'm not big on tariffs, but this is the first president that had went up there and looked at it going, oh my gosh, we are getting absolutely stolen blind. And what are these other presidents been doing? Well, they just had their eyes closed. They didn't want to make a tough decision and be afraid that, you know, they'd get a black eye from doing something that people might have to struggle with a little bit. But I tell you, our farmers here in the state of Alabama are struggling now. But I'll tell you, almost 100% of them are behind President Trump all the way. But let's get to this point. This is not about tariffs, folks. This is not about tariffs. If it was only tariffs, this would be done almost overnight, because this is killing China. They're broke already. I mean, this is absolutely killing. This is about them stealing our intellectual property. I mean, they have stolen everything that we've invented or come up with over here, because they don't have any R&D, research and development. They steal everything they get. And if we were to shut them off from stealing what we have, I don't know how long they'd make it. And I don't know how we can police that. I really don't. But I think it's a little bit about the tariffs. I think it's a whole lot about the research and development of them stealing everything that we come up with. Because I talk to people that they can't even turn their computers on. When they turn it on, man, it's gone. They steal everything they have.
Well, I'm going to tackle something else here. We're going to go in a different direction. We were talking earlier about the Second Amendment rights, gun rights. And Daniel brought up the red flag law. Now, the red flag law, I got to admit, it gives me pause, and here's why. I believe we need to give law enforcement all the tools they need, and I believe that these crazies that are shooting up our society, I mean, they're the ones that the leftists like to hold up as this is the reason why we need background checks. This is why we need gun control. Blah blah blah. I personally, a former sailor, former corpsman in the Navy, I think gun control is being able to hit a moving target from 200 yards. Okay, that's my idea of gun control. Now, that said, the red flag law would allow the police to come into your house, basically, without a warrant, warrantless searched, because someone next door said, hey, I see the guy next door with an AK-47 or an AR-15, and he's got 200 rounds of ammo, and he's out cleaning his weapon, and they call the police. And all of a sudden, the police kick your door down without a warrant, just to make sure everything's okay. I have a problem with a violation of the Fourth Amendment. As far as gun control, I'm not a fan of it. I believe everybody should own a weapon. People would be a whole lot nicer. I believe that there should be some background checks, or you can't not just anybody can buy one. But this red flag law, and the potential damage that it can do, as far as our Fourth Amendment right against illegal search and seizure, really bothers me. And I'm wondering, how do you feel about that, Coach?
No, I don't think we even start anywhere down of limiting guns to anybody, because you start down that slippery slope, it's going to be over with. They're going to keep going. They're going to want this. They're going to want that. And again, we do have a problem. Okay, but it ain't the guns. You take away the guns, they're going to use explosives. You take away those, then they're going to use a car to run over somebody. Yep. That's the way it's going to be. So we address the problem. You know, I've coached for 40 years, and you never work around the problem. You go straight to the problem and take care of it. And we're afraid that we might spend a little bit of money on the mentally ill. And if we don't start doing that, look at the homeless folks in California and New York. The streets are full. You know, there's more people on drugs, addicted to drugs in California, or in San Francisco than there are kids in schools. Would you ever dream of that? So we got huge problems. Guns ain't the problem. We can handle that if we take care of the people and put them somewhere and educate them, rehabilitate them, you're still going to have a few problems, but not near what we're having. But we've got to go to the heart of the problem, and not the thing that's around it.
So,
well, you mentioned a great word there, rehabilitation, Coach, and that'll be my next question, and then I'll turn it back over to Daniel. Rehabilitation, we have what's called the Department of Corrections. It's not really a Department of Corrections. It's a prison. Let's just call it what it is. And we put people who are addicted to drugs in prison or who have drug problems in prison rather than trying to rehabilitate them, putting them into rehab, getting them off of drugs, addressing the problem that makes someone become. I don't think anybody wakes up one day and says, I think I'll shoot some heroin. No, there's problems which lead, psychological, emotional problems which lead to a person becoming a drug addict. You address the problems through a mental health system. You don't put victims in a prison, which is what we do. We lock them up and throw away. We have prisons that are privatized, and they make money off of the number of cells that they have filled. I have a problem with that. I have a problem with throwing drug addicts in prison as opposed to trying to get them help. As a senator, would you be willing to introduce legislation that would correct that?
Yeah. That of course, you open up another can of worms now. Nobody wants to spend money on prisons. I mean, that's, politicians, that's the worst thing in the world. Somebody, you bring up putting money into a new prison. Well, the taxpayers go, we can't do that. I mean, we got to put it back in our schools. We got to put it back in our neighborhoods. And, there's a push and pull there. But again, addressing the problem of drug addiction, folks, we have a drug problem in this country that is eating us alive, and we don't even realize it. It's getting, I've been out talking to all these city police, the sheriffs, people that work in the communities. It's out of control. It is absolutely out of control, and we're not addressing it. We're sweeping it underneath the rug, just like we have this immigration stuff and not having a wall up. And it's getting to the point now where it's out of control. Drugs are out of control. Immigration's out of control. Our spending's out of control. We're a broke country. Why are we like that? Because our politicians can't make a tough decision. I'd hate to see these people in a position where they actually had to make a tough call. It's just, it amazes me how we've got to this point. Again, if you were born in this country, you hit the lottery. If you're born in this country with two Christian parents, you hit the lottery again. But I'm going to tell you, it's getting tougher and tougher. It is getting tougher and tougher in this country because we backed away from God, we backed away from our education, and we backed away from family. We don't have any of those anymore. Only 2/3 of the kids I coached over the last 10 years in major college football, 2/3 had one or no parent. What do we expect? I mean, now our law enforcement has no respect. It's just an absolute disgrace of what we've done to this country. And again, it's because of socialist ideas. Everybody's afraid to, be politically correct. Now, don't hurt anybody's feelings. The double standard, and do we have double standards? It is unbelievable because we're afraid to hurt people's feelings. Folks, if we don't get away from that political PC stuff and the double standards, this country's going to be gone and we will never be able to get it back.
Absolutely. That leads me right into my next question. We have a serious discipline problem in schools. I'll say it probably starts around third grade, maybe even as low as first grade, all the way up to the collegiate level. What would you do to address the discipline problem that we're having in the schools?
It's been there for a long time now. And again, it starts at home. If I got in trouble when I was in school, I went home. I got in worse trouble when I got home. We don't see that anymore. Yep. It's the teacher's fault now. It's a teacher's fault. It's not the kid's fault. I had a teacher tell me yesterday, said, Coach, I'm coaching in elementary school. And this year in our state, in elementary school, in the entire state, we cannot use the word no or don't to our students. I said, what? No, we can't use the word no or don't. Where in the world are they going to hear this from? I mean, if teachers can't discipline kids in the schools, some of the parents at home, they do discipline. I will say that. But I tell you, we got a majority of them that don't do it. And if you don't get it in the schools, you don't get it from the coaches, if you don't get it from the principals, they're never going to learn anything. folks, we're losing this country, and it's because kids, not all of them, just part of them, but we're losing more and more respect for another human being every day. And when we lose that, we lose the freedom of this country.
Absolutely. You know, I've said time and time again on this show that I think we as a society are becoming desensitized to human interaction. I think a lot of it has to do with the advances in technology that we've made. I think smartphones and tablets and things like that, I think a lot of that have something to do with how people are being so desensitized to human interaction because we don't interact with people as a society anymore.
Yeah, hey, you got that right. I mean, the phone is everybody's best friend. It's my best friend. It's your best friend. You know, I tell this little joke. My wife hates to hear it. I say, you know, you'll leave home and leave your wife. You won't go back. But if you leave your phone, you'll go back and get that phone. And, that is your best friend. And we've got to start limiting how they, you know, when I was coaching the last few years, I noticed our football players, they'd get to the dressing room, they'd have their headphones on, sit in their locker, they'd never talk to their teammates. And finally said, hey, enough's enough. You know, you never had them wrestling around and really getting to know each other. That's what it's about. It's about communication. And we do not communicate. I watch kids in restaurants now. You know, a whole family will go and sit in a restaurant, and the mom and dad will talk. You got 3 kids sitting there from ages 3 to 18, and they got the phone right in their face.
Looking at their phones. Yep.
Yeah. I mean, and again, you know, we're a free country. You can do what you want. But folks, you need to get control of the phone that your kids have. It is going to absolutely destroy them and your family, you know, if you let them get too deep into it. I've seen it happen, and it just breaks down all the rules of communication and being able to communicate with other people. And we're really missing that now.
Absolutely.
You're absolutely right. When I'm on the air on the weekends, I tell people, you know, beautiful day outside, put your phone down, put your laptop down, turn your radio up, go out, hang out by the pool, grill, barbecue, get out, do something outside and enjoy life, and get off the phone. And that's a large part of what we've got going on today is people, as Daniel said, are desensitized. They see something on TV. Used to, I remember when I was a kid, like 7, 8, 9 years old, there was an airplane crash coming from Georgia to Huntsville, Flight 242, I think it was. It was on the news for days, and it was terrible. And people were talking how terrible it was. You have a plane crash today, not a big deal. You have somebody shoot somebody, not a big deal. 34 people killed in Chicago over the weekend. Nobody cares. We're a society that has gotten used to mass shootings, to death, to destruction. And something's got to change.
Absolutely, yes, something does.
Yeah, I don't know where it's going to start, but it sure does need to change.
Maybe it starts with you, Coach.
It starts with somebody taking a step.
Well, that's what I'm trying to do, run for this office. Now, you know, I'm working hard at it and try to explain to people that, you know, I've seen it all. I'm not one of these lawyers that all I've ever done is sit behind a desk and read a newspaper and get my news off television. I've actually been right in the middle of it. And I've worked with young people all my life, and that's where it starts. And we've got a lot of great ones. I'm going to tell you what, we've got a great generation of millennials coming up, but they've got so much more than most of us ever had. And we got to help them understand that. So hopefully we can get it back.
Absolutely. So this is the last question that we got for you. So you're running against Doug Jones. And I'll be honest, I've really not followed Doug Jones in his political arena. I've not cared too much about what he's doing, just simply because of the fact that I don't care about what he's doing. But if you are elected to the Senate, if you take over the seat from Doug Jones, what will you or can you do better than what Doug Jones has already done?
Well, the biggest thing is, you know, when you're a U.S. Senator, you take the beliefs of your state, people in your state, you take them to Washington, D.C. And, you know, I watched Doug Jones. He gets elected. His first vote was to vote for Senator Schumer as minority leader of the Senate. And he believes in nothing the people of Alabama believe in. And then he votes against Brett Kavanaugh for Supreme Court justice. and a huge majority of the people in this state believe in Brett Kavanaugh. You vote how your people want you to vote. You don't go up and vote for your party. And I do not believe in it. And so after those 2 votes, I promise you it'd be very easy for me to outdo what Doug Jones has done for the people of this state. And so, again, I'm excited about this. People have been very good on the road, and I've learned a lot. But I've learned also people are sick and tired of politicians going up and after getting elected, just go up there and vote to stay. And, I'm just looking forward to this challenge.
Excellent. Donnie, you got any more questions for Coach?
Nope. I just want to say congratulations, Senator Tuberville. I think you're well on your way, sir.
Well, thank you much. And I've been thinking about.
But I'm always going to call you Coach, though. I just want you to know that you're always going to be Coach to me, Senator.
Awesome.
I will ask that when you're sitting in session in Congress and you've got your little nameplate in front of you, are you going to have them put quote and Coach in quotation marks on your nameplate?
No, I don't want to be called senator. I earned being a coach. I promise you, it means to me a whole lot, dealing with kids over the years, and I don't think there's any way I'm ever going to be able to get away from that. But it'd be an honor and pleasure to be a senator representing the state of Alabama. But man, I'm awful proud of being a coach in high school and coach in college, and being part of these generations growing up. So it's been a lot of fun.
Excellent.
Got my vote, Coach.
Certainly, mine as well. Well, Coach, do you have anything for our listeners out there? The last opportunity. You got anything to say to our listeners out there?
No, other than the fact that we're in trouble. This country's in trouble, and we need to send people up there that are not politicians. They're not going up there to just take a job. I don't need this job, but I want this job. I don't need the money. I'm not taking a paycheck. I've put in a lot of money in my own campaign. I'm going to win this thing for the people of this state and people of this country. I want to be a part of bringing this thing back. We got to get President Trump reelected. I want to go help him. He has saved this country in 2.5 years. Man, just think of what he can do in the next five and a half years if we can get him reelected.
Absolutely. Well, Donnie, I think I already asked you. You don't have anything more for the coach, do you?
Nope. I think I've heard everything I know to go cast my vote.
Absolutely. I'm the exact same way. Well, Coach Tuberville, we really appreciate you being on the air with us and taking the time to talk with us. I know it's been it's been a really special treat for me, to say the least. Like I said, I started following Auburn football when you were head coach there, and I have been an Auburn fan ever since. I've done classes at Auburn, and I will always bleed orange and blue. I know that for a fact.
Well, I got to throw in here. When I was young, I was in a thing called, I'm sure you've heard of it, Coach, 4-H. And 4-H was done through the Auburn Cooperative Extension Service. And it afforded me opportunities to go places, compete in competitions, do things that I never, ever got to do. So part of me, I have a part of me that says War Eagle. That said, Roll Tide.
All right, guys.
I had to do it. I'm sorry.
That's good. Hey, it's all getting ready to start. Football season.
Yep.
I'm ready to go.
Absolutely. We can stop hating each other over politics, and we can start hating each other for a really good reason, and that's college football.
Football. There we go.
Coach, we appreciate you being on the air. Thanks for talking with us.
Right. Honor talking to you, Coach.
All right. Have a good night, and drive safe, Coach. Oh, man. That was fun. I enjoyed that.
Excellent.
Oh, man. I'll be honest. I've got chills. Literally, I have chills right now. Because I mean,
hearing his voice is wow. I remember listening to I listened to his post game show from time to time, and really, really awesome.
Do you think if he gets elected and gets up there?
To find out also that being a senator, you can't bench somebody and you can't fire somebody unless they're on your staff, of course. And that's something that President Trump had to learn the hard way. It wasn't a reality show. He can't look at someone and go, "You're fired." Really? I'm a U.S. senator. We'll see what my constituents say about that. So it's going to be a culture shock for him. But I think he's going to be a good one. I
agree. Absolutely. Like you said, and like I said, he definitely has our vote here. I'm really looking for, and I hope and pray that he wins. I really do.
I think it's pretty much. I mean, I've been watching the polls. I've been watching unofficial polls, just because political science was my degree from college, and politics is in everything. So I follow it loosely, but sometimes I follow it intensely. And since I found out that he was going to be coming on the show, I did some research, and right now his name recognition in the state of Alabama alone, it dwarfs that of Doug Jones. The fact that he doesn't have any experience in politics is a big plus. I mean, even though Doug Jones is a politician, he's got everything going for him. It's basically coach's election to lose, and I don't see how that's going to happen. I mean, he's on the track, and he's got the name recognition. And I mean, well, you know as well as I do, in the state of Alabama, if Nick Saban was to decide to quit coaching football and run for governor, every politician in the state would be like, "Oh my God, is he coming after my?" Because he's got that name recognition, he's got the love. Same thing with Coach Tuberville; everybody loved him, and I think a lot of people, even Crimson Tide fans, I say this, even Crimson Tide fans like myself, even independents like myself, just listen to him, and he means what he says, what he means, and he means what he says. And I really think he's going to be a good senator.
Absolutely. You can definitely tell the conviction that he has when he talks about this stuff. Absolutely. I will say this. Now, when I had my meet and greet with him last weekend, the number of people that were there that were dressed in Alabama Crimson Tide shirts and Crimson Tide hats and Roll Tide and all this. But every single one of them that I saw that walked up to him, shook his hand and said, "I may bleed crimson and white, but I'm voting for you on election day."
Absolutely, because it's all about conservative or leftist. Conservative or socialist, as he likes to call it, and there's conservative Crimson Tide fans, just like there's conservative Auburn fans, just like there's independent, there's liberal, whatever. But hey, when it comes to the betterment of the state, when it comes to the future of the country, hey, it's a football team, but this is a senator, and a lot of Crimson Tide fans. Like I said, he's got the name recognition in the state of Alabama, and I think having Sean Spicer as his campaign manager is not going to hurt at all. And he's not going to be a Washington insider. I really believe that he is going to do exactly what he says he's going to do. He's going to meet resistance. He's going to have problems.
Oh, absolutely.
There's going to be setbacks, but that's the nature of politics. That's the beast itself. But I think. Yeah. Being the great coach that he is, he's going to overcome it, and he's going to do well.
Yeah, I agree, and we definitely wish him all the best of luck, for sure. Absolutely. So we got just a couple of minutes left here before we got to get off of here. So take the opportunity to say next week. Hopefully things will be back to normal around here. We'll have the contest line open again for people to call in. We'll be running another movie quote. I know
hopefully we'll be in the studio next week, hopefully.
Hopefully, yes. Yes, 100%. Hopefully, I do hope so. It'll just all depend on how things go here in Kentucky with my job. So, but yeah, definitely. Hopefully, we'll be back in the studio next week. We will have the contest line open again. We will be playing a new fresh movie quote for you. I don't know. Should we make it easier than the one we did last week? I thought or week before last. I thought that was a fairly easy one.
I know one. I know. Oh, you gonna play one now?
Yeah. I mean, have you got one picked out or?
Well, I don't have one picked out on me. I'm I'm confident just like you are. But yeah, I have one picked out. I have one that we could do next week, and I think it's an easy one. I think it's a gimme.
Okay. Excellent. So yeah, we'll definitely do that for sure. We'll have the contest line open again. Don't forget to go on our Facebook page, Two Beards Talking. Follow us, like us, interact with us. We love the interaction. If you like us, tell us. If you don't like us, tell us. And we'll tell you why you're wrong.
Excellent.
So
I've been getting a lot of response. I've been getting some response to our podcast, and I know there were several people listening tonight all around the country. Some in South Carolina, North Carolina, Florida, Michigan, Minnesota. A lot of people that listen to me on the radio on WQSB 105.1. Download the app and everything. Have been listening to podcasts also. So, and a lot of them are Alabama fans, and a lot of them are Auburn fans. And so, I hope everybody enjoyed what they heard.
all right, excellent. Well, Donnie, I definitely had fun with this tonight. So we're going to go ahead and wrap it up with that. Again, big shout out to all the troops out there. You guys are doing a great job. Come home safe. We're all rooting for you. Donnie, it's been great talking with you and talking with Coach Tuberville for sure.
Always. Look forward to it next week, Daniel.
Absolutely. Thanks for listening, guys. This has been Two Beards Talking. I'm Daniel Sanders.
I'm DonnieJ.
Thanks for listening.